It's the next level.
Hey, my name is Ross Marquand, and I play Red Skull. You are listening to Panels to Pixels podcast. Check it out.
3-5, return the vehicle. I need weapons officer. Who's on the desk?
Panda, I'll patch you through.
Shit, no, wait. Is there anyone else?
This is Panda. What's up?
Hey, I just made a traffic stop. Subject refused the search of his truck, and I observed cavalry contraband in his glove. Requesting firearm lock release.
What kind of contraband?
It was a Rorschach mask.
You sure?
I saw it. Panda, come on. Release my weapon.
Probability of drugs and/or alcohol in the subject's vehicle.
High.
Probability of firearms and/or explosives in the vehicle.
High.
What's your overall perceived threat level from the subject?
High. Just buzz me, okay?
Stand by.
It's not working. I didn't get it. Buzz me again, man.
Stand by. We good?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this week we are starting our Watchmen HBO show reviews. So we're doing the first episode, which is being called It's Summer and We're Running Out of Ice.
Right, which is a line, I guess it's a line, I should have looked it up. It's a line from the musical Oklahoma, I think, from one of the songs. But before we get started, we want to make sure everyone knows this is a spoiler-full podcast. So you should have already watched the first episode of HBO's Watchmen Season 1. If you haven't, we'll wait for you. 3, 2. Okay, thank you. You're back now after watching the episode, and now we can kind of talk about what we think. I wanted to change things up a little bit, Mark, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And instead of doing a synopsis at the beginning of the podcast, because we kind of fill in the blanks when we do our top fives and our notes, I just want to maybe have us do like a general first takes of the episode and then get into our top five. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Okay. So what do you got? I didn't really put anything in here this week for this, but really it blows my mind. I just love everything about this episode. There were so many things, and I'm sure we'll get into the details in our top fives and our notes, but I really was impressed by all the way some of the callbacks to the comic book. I loved the historical things that were in here. I loved just so much about this episode was really, really great, and I hope they can keep this up through the season.
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed the episode, mainly, and the one first take thought on it was it seemed darker than the actual movie itself, but it still held that darkness of the comic book. I don't know if anybody would understand that if you didn't read the comic, because even the Watchmen itself was kind of dirt and gritty, but this seemed darker in a lot of respects in comparison to the 2009 movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was definitely a darker feel, and I'm sure we're going to explore these racial undertones that it was kind of touched on a little bit in the movie, but this looks like this show is going to really explore that aspect of the Watchmen.
Oh yeah, basically I'm just enjoying it overall. Honestly, the way it looks, the different characters, because obviously these are not the same characters overall what we had from the movie and or the comics. It's a whole new batch. The only person we would see that is a consistent is Ozymandias.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit in our discussion of the episode itself. But yeah, I'm excited. One of the things that really, I don't know if it's in my notes or not, but I really am excited to kind of explore this whole American hero story that they're going to have, and I hope they give us more clips of that, because as I was rewatching it yesterday, I had forgotten. There's almost a whole scene where they show us little clips of those characters from the comic that I don't think were brought into the movie. Like, it shows the table where they sat with the little name placards, and it's got like Dollar Bill and Comedian and Mothman. These are placard names that I think we saw those in the comic book, but the movie never even explored those aspects of the Minutemen.
No, they did not.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited to hear a little bit more about that. Maybe get some more about Hooded Justice, and so we'll see what happens from there. But why don't we go ahead and get into our top 5?
Sure. You want to go, or shall I go first?
I can start because I really like the fact that this is a sequel to the comic book. This is not a direct sequel to the 2009 movie, which I have to admit was a mistake on my part. I really thought it was going to be a sequel to the movie. So I was caught off guard. I was kind of ready for it because I had listened to TV Podcast Industries do their review. They were able to do a review, a non-spoilery kind of review, because they apparently have been able to see the first several episodes. I guess they're one of the people that got to see advanced copies of it. So they shared, that was the first time I heard that it was going to be a sequel to the comic book and not the movie. So it was interesting. They took some bold choices, I thought, by having the whole raining squids scene, that if you have not read the comic book, you're not going to know what that's referring to.
Yeah.
You're gonna go, what is this about? Because that was never in the movie. There was not even a hint of it in the movie.
Nope.
And then, of course, the whole idea of Robert Redford being president. I went back today and looked at the trade, and it is Robert Redford at the end of the comic book. It's Robert Redford that they say is going to run for president in 1988 against Nixon. But in the movie, in the 2009 movie, it's Ronald Reagan, they say, who's going to run against Nixon in the 88 presidency. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. The cop at the beginning, when he gives the date, he tells us that it's September 8th, 2019. So we know that it is 34 years after the events of the comic book. So I really, really liked that.
Yeah. And that was your number 5?
My number 5, yeah.
My number 5 would be the introduction of the show. I thought was really amazing with the black and white capture of what was going on within the Tulsa, Oklahoma, the race riots in 1921. That was very well done, I thought.
Yeah, and this was actually my number 4, so we can get right into my number 4 with this discussion of it, because I knew as soon as I saw it come up on the screen, like, there was a bit of a thing in the back of my brain. For those of you who don't know, I live in Oklahoma. I don't live in Tulsa. I just went to Tulsa today, though, which is interesting. But I live in Oklahoma, and so as soon as I saw this come up, and I saw it say Tulsa, 1921, and I saw what was going on, I was like, in the back of my mind, I knew this event had happened. I knew there had been this huge race riot. I didn't know the details of it, though. So I kind of looked up some of the details of it. And basically what happened in 1921 was a group of Ku Klux Klan members did not like there was a section of Tulsa that was a very prosperous black community. In fact, it was known as Black Wall Street. And these Ku Klux Klan members basically just came in and started destroying things. And the worst part, in my opinion, the worst part of all this is the history. Their history has been not hidden, but it's been so skewed and the details are so sketchy that everything I could find estimated the deaths between 30 and 300. That there were so many deaths, they had no idea exactly how many people died during this massacre.
Wow.
And it just blows my mind that here, almost 100 years ago, they were dealing with something even, well, I mean, way worse than what we're dealing with today. But we can see, you know, the things in this country that it's great, the improvements we've made, but there's still a lot of steps we need to make.
Yeah, all the heinous actions that are happening in the world, especially at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, but you know, it is history, and it's actually our history, not in a comic book. You know, it's not a made-up thing that happened. That those events really did happen, and you can't really shut an eye to it.
Yeah. So what was your number 4?
That would be within the class, the "What Do You Do for a Living" with I forget her name. I guess she was not a Minuteman, but a Watchman at one point.
The Regina King character?
Correct.
Yeah. I think she was a cop is
Yes.
what she was. She wasn't, I think prior to this Black Knight, whatever she talked about 3 years ago, I think she was a cop, and she was one of the policemen that were targeted during that night, and that's why she left. But then, of course, we know as the episode progressed, we found out that she didn't leave. Maybe she officially left the police force, but she then became this masked, which IMDb calls her Sister Knight. Mm-hmm. And I think we heard that a little bit through the episode. One of the Looking Glass character calls her Knight a couple times. He says, "Should I contact Knight in Red?" when they're talking about the attack on the policeman. And later, when the guy that she goes and that she kidnaps, he says, "A woman dressed like a nun." So we get these kind of religious, and she, of course, had those like prayer beads that she picked up at the beginning as part of her costume. So yeah, I get the impression that now she's a school teacher, and her kind of cover occupation is that she's trying to get this bakery off the ground, but the bakery is actually just a front for her superhero garb and car. That Monte Carlo was great.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. When the kid asks her about, did you get your bakery from Redfordations? Because she mentions the fact that that's what it was. She's not a school teacher. She was visiting the class doing that baking demonstration. You're right. It was okay, this is blowing my mind that I'm just now figuring this out. It was what is that career day thing? Like, I don't have kids, so I don't, but it's like a career, it was a career day thing. And her kid brought her there to say, this is what my mommy does. I can't believe I'm just now picking up on that, was what that whole thing was about separating the eggs, and she baked the moon cakes for him. And I can't believe I'm just now figuring that out. Okay, so now all of this makes way more sense to me. She's not a school teacher, she's a baker. Trying to get her bakery off, but the bakery is really just a front for her superhero stuff. Wow, sure. I can't believe I'm just now like literally putting that together as we're talking about it. Yeah. Right. So okay, so the kid says, "Did you get your the money for your bakery from Redfordations?" Which obviously is some. And I'm a little confused because I listened to a previous podcast to where they thought the Redfordations was payment to black people after the 1921 riots, but I don't think that's what it is. I think the Redfordation was payment to these police officers who were attacked 3 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I got out of it.
Okay. That's what I thought too. I didn't think it was going back 100 years. I thought it was going back this 3 years to where, and now the 7th Cavalry has been quiet for so long. So
nah, it's weird for the fact that they do be like, oh, it's 100 years later, we're still going to pay your family.
Yeah. You know? And strangely enough, this is my number 3 as well. Just Regina King's character and how she's one of these masked heroes. But she doesn't, she tells the class that she's not a cop, that she, like I said, she tells them that she retired, and officially she's not. So that actually was my number 3.
Or number 4?
No, that was my number 3. Your number 4. It was your number 4.
Oh, yes.
My number 3 was basically the same thing. So
Oh,
we
okay.
are on your number 3,
Three.
and I'll just go to my notes.
Okay. So my number 3, it would be, basically it seems that the heroes are not looked well upon in this world still, after, all the incidents with the Watchmen and everything, but they try to do what they still do regardless of the laws that are in place. I liked it because, they were trying to do right because the law is not doing it itself. They're still not, the law is not doing their job.
Yeah, it's a little strange. It's almost as if, like, because what we saw in the comic book, and this is in the movie, the Watchmen movie as well, is this idea that they went through a period of time where masked heroes were looked on as heroes, but then something shifted when they got super violent and they were outlawed. And so that's when they all had to kind of go to ground, or they had to, as we talked about when we reviewed the movie, they had to either go to ground, hide themselves, or they had to give up their identity to the government. And so it seems like now what's happened, at least in Tulsa, is the cops have kind of incorporated these masked heroes into their departments, or at least into the Tulsa department. Because, like we saw that guy Panda was working the desk, and he's wearing masks. And I got this later in my notes, actually. It seemed a little interesting to me that all the beat cops, the uniform cops, they wear those half masks to hide their faces. They keep their identities secret so that this massacre that happened, like with the 7th Cavalry 3 years ago, can never happen again. But then there's a point where, I don't know if it's like maybe the detectives or maybe like the SWAT team or whatever, but they kind of graduate and they become these masked heroes, or maybe masked heroes are just incorporated into the police department. Like Panda seemed like he was an actual,
Cop.
like a bureaucrat. Yeah, like he was an actual cop. And so did Red Scare or Red Menace or whatever he's called. And the same with the Looking Glass guy with the mirror face mask. He seemed like he was a cop because he's doing the interrogation. She seems like she's the only one who's kind of like extracurricular, not actually with the cops. But as we watched the episode, we realized that amongst themselves, they take their masks off.
Yes.
So the chief knows who they are. They know who each other are. But the general population of cops don't know who they are. And then you have the chief, who everybody knows who he is. Did that seem a little weird to you? That of all the cops, so the chief of police is the one who everybody knows who he is. He's the one who's the face of the department, kind of.
Yes.
Okay.
He's like the figurehead, and everybody knows it. And...
Yeah. It just seemed a little odd to me that he would be the one that people would know. I think that brings us to my number 2, which was when they're in that assembly and they're talking about wanting to release the guns. Don Johnson mentions Article 4. I think one of the masked police officers, the female who's kind of got it almost looks like her mask was just makeup on. She says, I didn't put it in my notes. She says something about, warrants free, weapons hot is what she says. And he says yes, and he calls it Article 4. And then he tells Panda to go ahead and do a 24-hour release of all the cops' weapons. And Panda kind of, he kind of complains, and he's like, man, I think you're making the wrong choice. Everybody's it's got to be a 100% agreement. And so then he goes around to the individual masked heroes and says, do you feel your life is in danger? Yes. Do you feel that you need to use you're going to have to use deadly force? Yes. Do you feel, and he gets like the yes from them. And then he gets a hearty yes from the entire assembly. And then they make these two, and I didn't write down the Latin phrases for them, but I did Google translate what the Latin was. And the Latin that the chief of police says is, who watches the watchers, which of course is a playoff from Who Watches the Watchmen from the comic book. And then the response from the assembly is, we uphold. So are we, and I'm assuming that it's not just we uphold, it's we agree, or something like that. Like we're the one who watched the watch.
Yeah.
There's a lot of watching going on.
Yeah. Well, it is as Watchmen in it and watches in Watchmen, so.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a bunch of watches that they're all looking at and clocks ticking.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that brings us to your number 2.
Yeah, I love Don Johnson in his character. He portrays it very well. The character is really amazing, and I think he's really grand, and I just love it.
Yeah, I am a huge Don Johnson fan. I have been. I remember as a high schooler, I think I was in high school. I'm kind of giving away my age a little bit here. I think I was junior high school age when Miami Vice came out. I remember watching Miami Vice. I remember liking it, but not just that. Once he graduated kind of from TV to movies and got into movies, he's a really good actor. And now he's kind of had about the last 10 or 12 years or so, he's had kind of a resurgence of acting. So it's really great to see him.
Yeah, it's nice to see him come back.
Yeah. So does that bring us to my number 1?
Yes.
Yes. And that's just simply the return of the owl ship. I thought that was great, seeing Archie and using of the flamethrower. Unfortunately, it crashes, but it was great to see that callback to the comic book and the movie. I just loved it.
Yeah, and that would lead me to my number 1, which honestly would be that ending. Why not Don Johnson's character? I really liked him. Seemed to be very important. Or maybe was he the new quote unquote comedian in this,
Yeah, it was. I hated seeing that, but I think just like in the movie and in the comic book, I think we're going to get flashbacks of him. I don't think this is the last we've seen of Don Johnson in this role.
Yeah, they could bring him back with flashbacks.
Absolutely. I think we got to, because they've got to show. They can't have him just be in one episode. That would be tragic.
Yeah.
I am going through my notes here to see what we have not discussed. Go ahead and give your note, and then I'll look at mine to see what we haven't discussed already.
Well, basically, I really love the aspect of the music in the show, especially the music when Don Johnson's character was leaving. That seemed really ominous, like in Halloween. Just the tones in it and the way it's giving out when he leaves his house, and there was like I guess there was a spike chain that he ran over with his pickup that basically totaled tires, and just how it led into it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting. That's one of those scenes that just as you said that we're gonna have to see some more of, because how did Louis Gossett Jr.'s character get there? Was it the 7th Cavalry that killed Judd? And I mean, obviously it wasn't Louis Gossett Jr. Obviously there's no way a paralyzed man is going to be able to pull a spike chain out and then somehow subdue the chief of police and hang him, lynch him from a tree. That's just not going to happen. But obviously he found him. And so we're going to have to get the rest of that story throughout the season, probably, or maybe in the next episode or whatever.
Yeah.
So the music was very ominous. I had a couple of other notes here that we haven't already talked about. When the truck that was cleaning the streets, I noticed had a placard with a squid on it. I thought that was kind of interesting. When Looking Glass is doing his interrogation, he's flashing all these different scenes up on the walls around him, and one of them was of Mount Rushmore, and Richard Nixon's picture or Richard Nixon's face is on Mount Rushmore. So it was Lincoln, Washington, Nixon, and I think Teddy Roosevelt were the faces on Mount Rushmore, which I thought was kind of interesting, that how this universe has changed it. And when the children are doing their little chant of presidents, they name like Truman, and then they get to Nick. They say President Nixon, President Ford, and President Redford, and they all cheer because he's the current president. So I thought that was interesting that somewhere there in between Nixon and Redford, we have President Ford, just like in our actual history. I wonder if that happened where Nixon in the true history, Nixon stepped down, Agnew had already stepped down, and Gerald Ford had been named as vice president. And so Gerald Ford became the sitting president for a couple of years before Jimmy Carter was elected. But in this universe, it was Robert Redford elected. So I thought that was really interesting. And what did you think about the scene with, now in IMDb, he's listed as Adrian Veidt, he's listed as Ozymandias, but in the show, all we heard them refer to him is Master. But we know that like I said, we've been spoiled that Jeremy Irons is playing this character. What did you think about that whole scene with these two? He's got several servants, because he's riding the horse and he gives it to a guy named Alphonse. And then he comes in the house and there's two other servants there. And it's kind of a weird, I mean, I didn't get, it was very out of place.
And awkward.
The whole scene. Yeah.
Because he was naked.
He was naked when she's massaging him, and he's typing. He's typing up something on on an old typewriter, and he tells her, "Just dig in there, don't worry about it," And so it was just. And then when he's going to eat the cake, they give him a horseshoe, and he hands the horseshoe back to the guy and says, "This is a horseshoe," and the guy says, "Oh, would you rather have a knife?" And then he says no, and he picks up the fork or the spoon, whatever it was, and takes a bite of the cake. It was just weird. It was just freaky. That whole scene.
I think he just wanted to portray how freaky Adrian Veidt is. I think they used that name in the comic book too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely the name used in the comic book. So we did get one piece of feedback. Do you want to read this, or do you want me to read this?
You can read it.
Okay, we got one piece of feedback from a listener, so thank you very much, Shantae, for giving us this. She says this is for the first episode. She says she watched it last night, and I am rewatching it again right now. I was blown away by the episode, from the depiction of the Black Wall Street Massacre to the very last moments of the episode. Wow. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I do hope that the show can keep up this momentum and continue to tell a great story at the same time. Thank you so much for that feedback, Shantae, and I completely agree. I hope they can keep this momentum going, and I hope you keep sending us feedback.
Oh, cool. Yeah, definitely. Please send in that feedback.
So what do you think of where we're going with where this series is going to go? Did you watch the preview for next week?
No, I wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise for me.
Okay, so I won't give it away then, because I watched it. Not the preview for next week. I think it just said coming up in the next weeks in Watchmen. So I'm excited for what they've got coming. I don't know specifically what we're going to see next week, but I am excited. I'm definitely excited to see this series. I know that I think Damon Lindelof has said it's slated for 9 episodes or 8 episodes. And they haven't talked about a season 2 yet, which is kind of surprising, but maybe it's more usually Netflix and Hulu that do these, where they announce the next season before the first season's even finished. So HBO is probably going to hold us a little bit in suspense as far as whether there's going to be a next season or not, or whether this is going to be just a one-off miniseries kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll grow more with the viewers, and people will definitely want more, which I hope it does. It would be nice to have something consistent, since, Netflix is not doing anything. CW's kind of cornered that market with a lot of DC stuff. So,
well, yeah, and we're gonna, we've got to wait. We're gonna wait several months before the next Marvel movie comes out. We are gonna get Disney Plus here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So
we'll see what all they drop at once. I don't know how much they're gonna make us wait to see. I know some of those TV series is in phase. Is it phase 4? That we're starting?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know some of those things that are in phase 4 are supposed to be part of Disney Plus, but they haven't really said when all that stuff is gonna drop. So I'll be excited to see. But this Watchmen is gonna be a standalone. I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a separate thing from all the rest of them.
Yeah, it's its own little universe, which is fine by me. I love that idea. Yeah. That way it has no crossovers. The only thing that they would do, if anything, that would be funny would be if they did Doomsday Clock, but they would have to do all the rights with the DC superheroes, like with Superman.
Oh,
and
because that actually
Batman.
Doomsday Clock. Yeah, it actually has the DC heroes in it.
Yeah, in that particular universe, they actually come into to that whole Justice League style universe.
Right.
Because they think of them as like anti-heroes and go after them or attack each other and stuff like that. I thought.
Well, you wanted to share a little bit about the Atlanta Walker Stalker Con
Sure.
here before we get into our podcast recommendations and wrap things up.
A little bit about my experience at Walker Stalker Atlanta this year. A lot of it had to do, me going out there had to do with like support for our friend Jason who does Walking Dead cast. Plus I had press to go anyway, and while having press, I was able to obtain the panel at the live stage on Sunday morning or afternoon. It was 11:45 a.m. So I was able to do that, and my attitude about going originally was just I just want to be there, hang out with my friends, have a good time. A lot of things went down based upon Walker Stalker within that weekend. In comparison to last year when I went, last year was, my first experience, and it was pretty packed. But I was told years before that Atlanta, whenever they did a Walker Stalker, like you could barely move. In this case, this year, it was a quarter of the traffic there was last year. That's all it was, just a quarter of that. And mind you, it's nice when you could easily walk to places right up to a guest and get their autograph or talk to them and not have to wait on, like, let's say an hour to 2 hour long line for certain guests. But I was really mainly there to visit and hang out with my friends. We kind of did, shared selfies. We didn't do any of the professional photo ops, and that seemed to be the mainstay and problem that was going on at the con, and people were upset. And then, of course, there was that issue with Angel Theory, which I did not know about, but I also did know because some of our friends went up to her, and I took the picture of them with her, and a fan was actually doing interpreting for Angel because they didn't provide her with an interpreter. So they didn't have anybody who was doing ASL for sign language at any of the panels or even at her table. So it was a little bit strange, but regardless, I thought a lot of the people I saw were having a great time. The panels were really good. Jeffrey D. Morgan didn't do his own as he usually does, but Ming Chen was there, and I got to see Ming before he went on.
Oh, cool.
He actually recognized me from the last time I saw him, so he was like, "Hey,
nice.
bud, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey." I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I have to go upstairs, and are you going to the panel?" I said, "Is that what this is?" Because I didn't know where I was going. This was Saturday morning. I got there extra early, and I thought I had to wait in line or something, and I was told to go up the escalator, and I went. I didn't realize it was a panel, and then a friend of ours came behind me, and she goes, "Yeah, this is." I'm like, "Oh, this is where Ming went." So he actually was there to introduce Jeff, but it was supposed to be Jeff D. Morgan and Kaylee Fleming together, and usually Jeff does his own. I guess since he had the flu and he was sick, he didn't want to do it all himself.
Right.
So Ming had to do that, but they were delayed for almost like an hour and a half, and I felt bad for Ming because he had to talk to the crowd for over an hour and a half. And he was there for...
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was doing basically support for Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, very cool.
So he was there. Like I said, I had my panel on Sunday with Tony Moore, who is co-creator of the Walking Dead comic book. He did the first 6 issues. His name still is on the comic. Was on the comic since it ended, but it was on the comic book from beginning to end because he was a co-creator. And that was the legal separation that they got, and then the agreement that they had.
So he never got any recognition on the TV show.
He did. He still gets.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Tony was wonderful to talk to. Very nice person. He and I got to talk a lot at his table, and mostly from the table to the actual live stage and back again.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was nice. He was interested. He was actually amped up for the Watchmen TV show as well. So and I hope he's listening.
Yeah,
So,
hopefully. Hi, Tony, if you're listening.
but yeah, if you are listening, Tony, thank you very much for the opportunity to having the panel with you.
Very cool.
Yeah, the weekend went well. Regardless of all the little setbacks, Tony wound up having to do a sketch of Daryl Dixon, which was never in the comic book. So he did it where it would be comic book based. So he made him like really southern and missing teeth and almost like with like a trucker hat, and it looked pretty cool. He had like a tattoo on his neck, and the person commissioned it, and I saw, I think, a skeleton of it when he was drawing it, and that's all I got to see until I saw it on Instagram the other day, and I thought that was awesome.
Nice.
So, but yeah,
All right.
that was my experience. I do recommend anybody who wants to go to those cons. You can. They got new people that are leading the cons, so I wouldn't be afraid to go if I were you guys, but that's just my opinion. Everybody has their own opinions, but mine is like, if you want to go just to experience it, do so. There are other cons that'll be out there that you could see Walking Dead actors and people, or even comic book cons that you could go to meet these actors or artists as well. They're usually local, and if you feel that you really want to go. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I want to recommend a couple of podcasts for those of you that are looking for new podcasts. If you're a fan of the TV show Lost, I would recommend checking out We Have to Go Back, Lost Revisited, which is a Lost Rewatch podcast. It's a joint podcast between Podcastica Network and Next Level Online. Strange Indeed, which is on the Podcastica Network. They are currently covering season 2 of Castle Rock. And everything on Next Level Podcast Network is as well. Just go check it out. If you go to nextlevelradioonline.com, you will be redirected to everything Next Level.
Yeah, it's the next level.
Is the next level.
Yeah. So you could also hear me on another podcast. I do the Walking Dead talk through with Brian Malash. Currently, we're in Walking Dead Season 10, and we should be coming up on episode, is it 3? Wow. 4?
4. Yeah, 3 was this week, 4 will be
right.
Sunday.
I got confused because I was, with the con and everything, maybe a little bit loopy.
Yeah.
But yeah, episode 4. And I think this is going to be a good one. I think this season is doing very well. So, come on over, go to talkthroughmedia.com, and you can listen to it on our website, or you could go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from, and you'll hear us. And please do submit feedback if you're interested. We love feedback, especially here as well.
Absolutely. You can submit feedback to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/panels2pixels. We will post a episode thread there, and that would be the best place for you to post that feedback. You can also submit your feedback to us on facebook.com/panels2pixels, where we will post an episode thread feedback post, and you can give us your thoughts there for episode 2, which will be coming out this Sunday, October 27th, and it is titled Martial Feats of Comanche, according to IMDb. Again, we'll be posting an episode thread feedback post on our Facebook page. Also, you can email us at panels2pixels1@gmail.com. That's panels2pixels1. The TO is spelled out right there in the middle, and the number 1@gmail.com. Or you can call us and leave a voicemail at 845-350-2095. That's 845-350-2095.
Awesome. So that's our show for this evening or day, depending on when you listen to this. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels. Good night, everybody.
Good night.